How you
Yeah,
doing, Howard?
I'm doing good, thank you. Yeah, sorry, I'm a bit late. I'm like the last person went on
Oh,
a bit.
don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You had a pretty big gig yesterday, and you got one tomorrow, so you have a little bit of a day off, I guess, right?
Yes, that's right. Day off today, which is great.
How's the tour
Yeah,
been going, by the way? I mean, it
it's
just been
been
getting
going. It's been going so well. I'm just loving playing these outdoor amphitheaters. The sheds, those they're called.
Mhm.
It's unique to America, and I obviously I played them all during the '80s.
Sure.
uh, and had all those memories, and then I'm going back now playing them again. It's just so great, and people are still coming, isn't it? It's like I know all the songs. It's just a joy, honestly. I feel so how lucky am I to be doing what I love, after all this time.
It must seem like for me because I still remember my cousin sending me a tape from college when I was in high school, and it had this song called "Conditioning," and I've been
Oh
hooked
yeah.
on ever since. That was the first song for me, and
Oh, great.
to me, looking back at that album, the Humans Live album,
Yeah.
I wonder how important Rupert Hine must have been. So important in the essence of. I don't believe if any other producer would probably want to change so much things. I think he really was in step of what you wanted to do.
Yeah, it was amazing good fortune for me to end up with Rupert as my producer. The first producer that I'd ever worked with. You know, well, actually, the first single was produced by somebody else, but the album, and Rupert was he was so in tune with me on so many levels. First of all, he loved the lyrics because the lyrics actually meant something and were about philosophy. They weren't about sort of corny, love lyrics. They, just take the track you've just mentioned of conditioning.
Mhm.
He just he loved where I was coming from philosophically and lyrically, and then you know he Rupert's a total keyboard nut as well, just like me, and loved working with technology, but had this great vision for how records should sound and how engaging they should be. So I just was so happy when the record company, suggested that I work with Rupert, and they could have put me with a lot of other producers that were having, top 40 hits at the time, but they wouldn't have been right for me. Rupert was right for me because he had the edge as well
Yeah.
that I wanted to keep in my music. And so,
I,
yeah, so it's perfect. Yeah.
I mean, if you would have been stuck with them, I'm going to say, I'll just throw some name out, like Mutt Lang or somebody,
Yeah.
they're really busy about, changing it into what they see.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I'm never going to. I'm never going to underestimate his contribution. I mean,
Sure. Yeah.
basically, Rupert came to see me play live as the one man electronic band, and so he said, "Come into the studio, set your stuff up right in front of the speakers, and let's run it, and then we can add stuff, change, the arrangements. We can do all the vocal harmony things you want to do." And he just kept it exciting to be there. The energy level it was never like, oh, overthinking things. It was
Mhm.
like he only ever let me do four vocal takes on any song, only four, and then he would comp those four to get the best bits.
Sure.
So Rupert's genius to me was keeping everything excitement, capturing the excitement, and then you get it on the record. It's there on the record.
I read on your site, obviously, and we've talked before on it about the accident with the van that Jan had, and it kind of
Yeah.
that led you to getting your first the synthesizers that you were wanting. What were the synthesizers that you bought, and it kind of changed your life. It kind of opened a whole new world for you once you got those, and you could build off of those.
Yeah, well, the thing was at that time, Jan and I were doing. I was working in a factory during the
Hmm.
day, and then doing other jobs when I came out. Giving piano lessons and stuff. Jan was working in the tax office, and one day I came home with a. I traded in our car for a van, and I said, Jan, we've got to get out of these jobs because we need to work on the music.
Mhm.
So I had this job where we could work together and deliver vegetables to people, at their house. And that one night, that accident happened. And, Jan could have been killed that night. I could have been killed that night. And I had this realization really that there's no time to waste. We just don't worry about anything. Just go for what you really want to do with your life because it could have ended that night. Don't hold back. And so we decided to do that. And then the money that Jan got for her compensation, she wanted me to have to put into um, the gear. And I bought Jupiter 8 and 808 drum machine, and we just it just flew from there. Yeah,
The one thing we talked about last time, very briefly though, was the song that was one of your biggest hits here was "No One Is to Blame" here in America.
yeah,
But it was
yeah,
the drum part, and because I mean, Phil had asked you, if I'm not mistaken, Phil had asked
yeah,
you to come up with a kind of a drum part or something that he could
yeah,
use the timing, and it wasn't even supposed to be part of the song, but
yeah.
it became part of the hook. Am I correct?
Yeah, yes, that's right. And it's funny because he said, I mean, a lot of his own solo records were made, with a sort of drum machine backdrop.
Yeah.
He liked playing along with a drum with a he used to program a part. He said, look, so program me something up so that I can play with it. And it's funny because I was talking to David Paice recently from Toto, and he
Yeah.
said when he first heard the record, the whole band were like in the studio playing it over and over again, trying to work out what that was at the front, and because when I played it to Phil and Hugh Padgham, who co-produced it with him,
Mhm.
they absolutely loved it, and as you say, it became maybe the biggest hook of the song. It's the first thing you hear, and they wanted to keep all of it. It's like so. So yeah, it's a funny how things happen, isn't it? But I was so panicked, that Phil had asked me to do this drum. I mean, it was what I did, but I thought this one's got to be really special because Phil's going to play with it. He's going to produce the record, so I made a massive effort to make it good, and it turned out well. Yeah, the version on Dream into Action was very sparse and quite um, stark. That version,
Yeah.
and I'd always thought that the song, in that form, radio wouldn't go for it. But I thought we could do a version that radio would like. And I said to the record company, this could be a big hit, and they was very skeptical about that. But I kept believing in it, and we tried it again with Rupert, and that wasn't quite didn't really get there. And then I'd met Phil because we'd done the Princess Trust
Mhm.
concerts, all sorts of charity things. So Phil, we knew each other and I got on really well. And so sent the song to him and he really loved it, wanted to do it. I think he could hear what I was thinking we could do with it. And it worked. It was 2 weekends it took to record it and mix it. And
Like I said, when you listen to the first version and this, totally different songs. Love them both, but
yeah, yeah,
he just breathed. You both breathed new life into that song, and it gave
yeah,
it a more, like you said, a kind of a positive spin on it. Tell me
yeah,
about the tour, the one of the biggest tours you did here. Dreaming to Action came
yeah,
out. That was one of your biggest tours. You had Aphrodisiac,
yeah.
your whole band. I remember seeing you on American Bandstand. Just tell me
Mm.
about the time that you felt that I've arrived, so to speak.
Yeah, it did feel it did feel really good actually. We were playing Madison Square Garden, to 17,000 people. I mean, it was like, whoa, how did that happen? Because that for a kid growing up in England reading the New Musical Express and the Melody Maker,
Mhm.
that was like the holy grail. Play Madison Square Garden or the Forum, in LA. And you never thought that would ever happen, but it did, and
Yeah,
I headlined it and it was just incredible. And there was a sense of learning like really, really enjoy this because, it may not, happen again. This is like, a great, be really proud that you managed to do this. And it was great. Yeah, it was a fantastic tour that, yeah.
how proud were you to be able to be attended and performed at Live Aid. I've talked to so many people from there. We've talked about it before, but how proud are you about that moment?
No, it was, well, because because I'd missed out on Band Aid. I really kind of heard about it, but I didn't. Nobody kind of asked me or pursued me to. I don't know what we were. I was so busy at the time, so when I heard that Bob and Midge were going to do Live Aid, um, I said to my manager David, look, I have to be involved in this. It's the most brilliant project, maybe the whole of the 80s. Saving people's lives and really showing that the 80s wasn't just about what everyone says, greed
Mhm.
and power and all that. I want to be part of this. So cancelled shows on the West Coast, and me and Aphrodisiac flew back to London. So it was really important to be part of it. And I did one song, and that was enough, to be in there with it all.
And you had told me before that you actually were supposed to do another one. You and Aphrodisiac practicing out in the hallway or whatever, and you had, what is it,
Yeah,
David Bowie and Pete Townsend were your
yeah,
audience?
yeah. That's right. That's right. Yeah, I know. That was one of the things we didn't get to do it in the end, but we did perform it to Bowie and Pete Townsend. So that made up for it for me.
It
The
says.
girls the girls weren't so impressed. They wanted to be up there on the stage. I totally get that, but for me, that audience was like pretty high end.
Well, Howard, just before I let you go, I have to say that the last few albums, especially Dialogue, I really love the direction you're taking. Especially,
Mm,
just the songs that are coming out.
mm,
Celebrate Together, Be the
yeah,
Hero. Those are some of my
yeah,
favorites. Just tell me the albums you've kind of put out the last three, and I guess you've
yeah,
got another one coming out soon again. Just tell me about the
yeah.
direction you were taking and kind of went back to your roots, if I'm not mistaken, but with a
Yeah,
contemporary
no,
feel to it.
no, no, that's right. I mean, I do think of it like that. So I was thinking, go back to where I started with the electronic sound and based around songs, which is what I do. That's my thing. Is songs have structure and melodies and hooks and great sound. So you know, dialogue was written during COVID, and I had plenty of time in the studio to really experiment and hone the sounds I was using and get it, the way I wanted. So yeah, it was good. I mean, the next album will probably be a bit more experimental, I think. It may not follow Transform and Dialogue, but because I've got this new piano, this new Steinway that plays what I play into it back to me
Wow.
physically, and I can then edit the takes I've done with an iPad. So I really want to use that as a basis of the. It'll probably be quite an unusual sound.
You had a bank of
Yeah,
synthesizers. Now you can
yeah.
almost do it with one.
Well, we're still pushing the technology everywhere we can in the studio and on stage. We we're always trying to take risks with it
Sure.
and and give people a sound that they may not have heard live before. So yeah, we have a great time.
All right. Well,
Okay.
thank you so much for giving me a few minutes and on your day off here, Howard. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you. Thanks so much. All the best.